RDG Books is proud to present Relax and Chat, Episode 10, with Anita Dickason. Hi, Anita. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Love and been excited about doing this, so thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, it's an honor to have you here. There may be some in the audience that are not familiar with your work. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think first and foremost is I'm a retired Dallas police officer. I had a phenomenal 22-year career with the Dallas Police Department. I served as a patrol officer, undercover narcotics detective, advanced accident investigator, and I was on the Dallas SWAT team for several years, and I was the first female sniper that they had. So it was a phenomenal career, and it's really given me the base for the books that I write now. I write about what I know, cops and crime.
Well, it's a great topic. A lot of people are into, fiction or nonfiction, the true crime type of stuff or the whodunit. I've seen that there's a lot of readers for that type of book. So I imagine you've had some pretty good success.
Well, it has been. I've done very well, thank you. My book's been very well received, and most of the people that read them have had some very good comments. So it's been very rewarding, very rewarding. I count one successful reader at a time. That's my measure, my goal.
Well, the format of the show is we'll go ahead and hit 5 quick questions that I ask every writer. And it's really fascinating because every writer's got their own style and every writer gives a different answer. So the audience is really liking that. So I'm going to stick with it. Okay. The first question is almost always really interesting. And that is, do you consider yourself to be a pantser or a plotter, and why?
I am very much a pantser. And how that came about is my very first fictional novel was an elite team of FBI agents that I created, the Trackers. And in the process of writing Sentinels of the Night, I started taking online courses. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the instructors said, you need to do an outline. I mean, she was not only a literary agent, but an author herself, and she hammered the point of an outline. So I thought, okay, if I need an outline, I'll do an outline. Mm-hmm. So I sat down and I wrote an outline for where I thought Sentinels of the Night was going. I ended up spending more time updating the outline. And every time I made a change in the direction of the book, well, okay, I've got to go over and fix the outline. And I finally decided this was not going to work for me. And I have learned that usually there's two sides on this thing. People who are absolutely adamant about doing an outline, and then people like me that are just the opposite. But I've found personally, it's like doing an investigation. I start with a clue, and where does that clue lead me? And that's basically the way that I do my books. I kind of have an idea of where I'm headed, but I let my characters lead me.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty well known by now that I'm 100% pantser. And to that instructor, there are pantsers that do quite well. One that comes to mind is Stephen King.
Yeah.
So maybe don't push the plotting quite so hard.
Well, I did not know that. Yeah.
Stephen King.
Well, it does have its downside. It's easy to write yourself into a corner, but then the fun part is, okay, how do I get out of it? So
yeah. My first Relax and Chat episode was maybe a little bizarre, but I interviewed myself.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting.
I talked about writing myself into a corner.
Yeah.
Stephen King, one of his lectures, loosely brought me to the answer, and that is when I backed myself into that corner and had no place to go, I knocked a hole in the wall and kept going.
That is a good way to think about it. That never occurred to me, but yeah, that's about what you do. You have to find your way around it and work your way through it, and that's what makes it fun. I think for me personally, I think it makes for a little better book too. Mm-hmm. It's not so formalized. It's not so structured. The flow is maybe a little bit more informal, so it works. I'm not going to change. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. for me, being a pantser is just plain fun, and I don't want to take the fun out of it, you know.
It is.
Okay, the next question that I always ask, and this one is, I think, on the minds of every writer, no matter how successful they are or if they're just starting out. How do you balance the time between your everyday responsibilities and the time that it takes to write?
Uh, well, for me, it's basically a non-issue. Since I'm retired, my time is my own, and I can invest as much or as little as I want. So there's never really an issue as far as balancing. It's more an issue of organization and how do I structure, because really the writing is the easiest part. It's all the other elements that come into it. I do a lot of research for my books, the material, for the plots, the characters, and I even have something that I put at the back of my book for my readers, and that's the story behind the fiction, where I share a little bit about, you know, what was the inspiration for the story, because all of my plots are grounded in fact. They may be fiction, but there is a basis of fact that is there. So I share that with the readers. So when you start adding all of that into it, you look at the amount of time that it takes to get the book ready. We talked about that I do all of my own publishing, which means I do all of my own formatting, I do all of my own cover design, I do everything that is needed to get the book ready for market. That usually adds a lot of time. The one that we're going to talk about in a little bit, Deadly Keepsakes, I actually wrote the book itself in about 6 weeks.
Wow.
But you add all of those other elements in there, you can tack on about another 5 or 6 months.
Easily.
So yeah, it's really more of a matter of organization, not so much trying to, you know, work around other responsibilities or something. I'm lucky that way.
Yeah,
A lot of people have a 9-to-5 job or something, so you know they don't have the luxury I do.
Yeah, but you've earned it. You did the work. Yeah, you know.
Well,
So
I don't know about that, but I have to say, you know, my writing has turned into another career in my retirement, but I'm absolutely loving it. It's been a very rewarding journey. It has been.
well, I only meant to say that being a meter maid, ticket cop in a big city like Dallas, that alone, that all by itself, would be a highly respectable career. And I would say, with all of your experience, you put your time in. And if you want to leisurely pick your hours in retirement, well, by golly, you go right ahead.
I do. If the truth be known, I work harder now than really probably what I did on the job, because I don't have that organization that says, okay, I have to be there at 8 o'clock and I have to leave at 5, or I get there at 4 o'clock, I have to leave at midnight. You know, I can get up and I'm on my computer when I wake up, and I can go all day long or into 1 or 2 o'clock if I'm, you know, so it's it's a different environment, but it's still fun.
Yeah. Now, the next question I'd ask should be fun for you because you've written quite a few novels. What would you say was the most fun story you've ever written? The one that brought to you personally the most joy?
You know, surprisingly, in the interviews that I do, this is a question that has come up before, and it's probably been the hardest one for me to answer. It's one that I have struggled with. Every single one of my stories has unique characters, of course, a unique plot, unique research, and it's like asking me, okay, which one of your children do you like best?
Good point. Good point.
You know, there is so much emotion, and I don't know if people really understand this unless they actually are in the process of being an author or can relate to some of this. But there is so much emotion that you put into your characters, the dialogue, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And just because you finish the book doesn't mean that emotion or that connection with your characters has gone away. And especially if, like what I've done with my tracker novels, I continue through several stories, even though they're standalone novels, and a different agent takes center stage, there's still that emotional connection to what I've written before. You just can't get away from it. So it makes it very difficult to say, all right, I like maybe this one a little better than another. It's not an answer or something that I've ever really been able to answer. Depends upon which book we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's a very excellent answer. Early on in the beginning of Relax and Chat, I made a comment, and then I've had guests on the show since then make the comment that for a writer, their book is their baby.
It is.
What you said about picking which child you love the most makes a good point, Well done.
Well, it really is, because, you, like I say, you build that emotional connection because you're dealing with the emotions. And there's been even times where I'm writing something and man, I got the tears, or I'm laughing out loud, over something that I've written. So it's it just doesn't go away when you put the book and you're done with it and you move on to something else. It's still there.
Yeah. See the last slide in this video. Send me a message and say you'd like to be a guest, and I'll touch base and let you know how easy it is to do. So the next question would be, and this may be hard for you just because you've written so much, but what would you think, what comes to mind as the hardest scene you ever had to write that was just so difficult to get that scene done?
Well, there would be two instances. Again, keeping in mind that my tracker novels, my crime thrillers, like I say, they're based in fact. Going Gone was the second of my tracker novels, and I had a scene at the White House involving the president, the head of Homeland Security, the head of the FBI tracker team. Now, having never been in the White House, how do you write a scene about the White House? It took so much research to get all of the details of, how a particular room looked, or, what artifacts or paintings or that type of detail. Yeah. So that scene dealing with the president in a book was very difficult. It took quite a bit of time. But the most difficult book I have written was Operation Navajo. This was about a plot to assassinate whom many people believe is the second most powerful man in the government, and that's not the vice president. And a lot of people think that this individual may even be ahead of the president, and that's the Federal Reserve Chairman. For most people, yeah. The Federal Reserve controls the monetary currency for the United States. It's not the federal government. It is the Federal Reserve. And they have a phenomenal building in Washington, D.C. Again, like the White House, was difficult dealing with that. But I had to create a scene in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. That was a culmination of this book. Again, never having been in Wyoming. How do I build about a resort that actually exists? The terrain, I had to set up a sniper situation. Very, very difficult. Man, that one took me quite a while to get the level of research and the details to just even begin to write the scene. So I would say without a doubt, Operation Navajo in its entirety and that particular scene have been the most difficult.
Wow. Sounds like they certainly would be. Very difficult.
I even pulled in the World War II Navajo code trackers. I created a code that was similar to what they used in World War II. And the Japanese never broke the Navajo code talkers code.
Wow.
It's truly a unique phenomenon in itself. And so that, again, was another difficult element within that story. So,
well, now to flip it over on the other side, I'll ask you, what was the most fun scene you could remember writing that brought you a lot of joy? You sat and laughed while you were writing it. What was the funnest scene you remember?
Oh, okay. Just a bit of a back history here. All of my crime thrillers the focus has been the crime and how the police have solved it. And every one of my books has had some type of cop whether it's a police chief, a deputy sheriff, an FBI agent, an Interpol agent, a U.S. Marshal, special rangers, and that's another unique group of officers in Texas. It's another story. But they're all have been police related, homicide detectives and whatnot. Last year, I decided to shift gears and went into what is about as close to a cozy mystery series as what you can get without it actually being cozy mystery. But it changed the whole focus of my writing in that now I'm focusing on characters and how the crime affects them. May not realize that there's much of a difference there, but when it comes to writing, it's a big change.
Yeah.
Well, I created one of these characters that I like to call the character you love to hate. This individual in Deadly Keepsakes, which is book number 1 of my new Tori Winters mystery series, which takes place in a small town south of Dallas. She is a snotty-nosed socialite that has become quite a thorn in the side of my main protagonist, my main character. And writing the scenes about her, I would get even to the point I'm laughing myself over some of the things that I have coming out of this woman's mouth. So I would say that, it's not writing about, something really positive or something. It's this character that you love to hate. And so, she's in my first book, and she's in this next one that'll be coming out in January. So those were fun ones to write, just simply because of the type of character that I created.
Well, I got to say, it's a lot of fun when your character comes to life like that.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, because being a pantser, I often will type a paragraph with no idea what the next paragraph is going to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes I stare at the page, but there are those times when the story line or the character will just take off, and all I'm doing is typing what they're doing.
It just flows.
Yeah, and isn't it wonderful? It sounds like the character in Deadly Keepsakes did that, sort of came to life on her own. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Well, I'll certainly make sure there's a link in the description where anyone in the audience can click on and go take a look at that novel, because it sounds really cool, and it does.
Well, it has been very well received. My other novels, my crime thrillers, have done very, very well, but I hit a special note, that's just resonated with a lot of readers on Deadly Keepsakes. And even, when's the next one coming? We're waiting for the next one. When's the next one coming? Well, it was coming in I published Deadly Keepsakes in July, so I'll be publishing book number 2 now in January.
Wow, awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. And then I've actually seen your website. I'm also going to put a link in the description for that, because you have a very nice, very awesome website. It keeps your attention, and you want to look and see what else is on there. I mean, it's really cool. You did a great job designing that. It's really nice.
Well, thank you so very much. It's one of my fun projects. I try to update it every month. And I also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to if you go to my website. And if you do, you get a free download of a novella that I wrote called The Foretelling. And that is a prequel to Going Gone. So you can get a free download of that book. The website's just like part of, as far as what I do with all my design work. And then, of course, I've got my 2 video channels, so I do that as well.
Yeah, and I'll definitely link those in the description.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
Well,
And for anybody that is listening to this, I don't do how-to type videos. That's not what my video channels are about. Just as I entertain with my books, and I do it through words, I entertain with my videos, but I add music and images. So they're book trailers and just about anything bookish, and it's just another element that I have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the audience will really enjoy that. So certainly we'll have links to everything down in the description because you've got an awful
Thank
lot
you
to
much.
offer to your fans. And you know, the more people that get a look at what you've written and the things you've done online, wow, word of mouth alone is going to really
Well,
do a lot. I'm very impressed with everything I've seen. Very cool.
oh, thank you. Well, one of the questions that I've been hit with in the past is, how much of you is in your books? And my answer has always been, oh, a whole lot, because there are so many instances throughout the book that are based on something that I actually did experience, encountered, throughout those 22 years with the police department. So it's given me a very sound foundation as far as my writing goes. So there's a little bit of me in every single book.
All right. Well, this is a segment in the show that I think is something a little bit special. We've had a nice conversation. It's very fascinating, all the things that you've done. But this segment is for your chance to speak directly to the audience, and you can promote anything you want. You can say anything you like. Say hi to the audience.
Well, big hello from Texas. I love living in Texas. I've been here for many years. I'm one of those individuals that said I may not have been born here, but I got here as fast as I could. And I've had, cops chasing the bad guys all over this state, east to west, north to south. So hello from Texas. And I'd hope that you would take a look at my website, that you would take a look at my books. I write to entertain, and that is my whole focus. And it's a fun process. I enjoy sharing what I write, with my readers. I'm open to comments, suggestions. I'm on Facebook. I've got the 2 YouTube channels that I've already referred to. So I'd hope you'd stop by and take a look. And if you do, send me an email and say hi, because I love to talk to people.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Well, I want you to know I sure appreciate you doing the show. And
fun.
When your next novel comes out, if you'd like to come back on the show and talk about it, I'd love to have you.
I'd love to. I am planning in January a Facebook event where I will have a cover reveal. I'm going to be doing some giveaways. That's something else I hadn't mentioned, that in my giveaways, I do tote bags. I do all kinds of swag. I design bookmarks, book plates, pens, coffee cups, you name it. And I love giving these things away in giveaways. And so I'll have a nice giveaway. And then I've got a book blitz scheduled in February through Lone Star Literary Life, and a book blog tour. And the Texas bloggers are going to have a chance at another one of my books. It's a group of people I absolutely love. So,
well, you said earlier that your new career, your second career, you're busier now than you were in your first career. Well, at this point, I totally agree. You sound incredibly busy. But it's a funny thing about writing. One of the hardest jobs we'll do. Also, probably the most rewarding, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Wow.
It has so expanded my entire world. I'm talking to you, and you're in Kentucky. Isn't that where you're located, in Kentucky? I have authors that I've worked with overseas in the UK, and even one in France, and another one in Spain, and I've got them in Washington and Arizona. These are people that I would have never had an opportunity to know if I had not sat down and started writing.
Yeah.
So, my books aside, what it has brought to my life has been, like I say, so very rewarding, in the fact that I'm encountering and dealing with individuals who are literally awesome in their own right because of what they bring to the table and are a true inspiration. So it's fun.
It is. It's a fun world to live in. It really is. Well, I think we're just about done with this episode. But again, thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing, wow, so much that you do. To the
Well, I
audience,
thank you for having me, and I so enjoyed myself. I love talking about books, whether they're mine or somebody else's.
to the audience, I do want to point out all the necessary links that we talked about. They will be in the description below. And in particular, you really got to check out Anita's cool website. And it's sort of a portal to everything else. There's links everywhere, and it's just super cool. And so definitely check that out. And of course, there's a link in the description for Deadly Keepsakes. Check that book out. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm going to go grab me a copy. So again, thank you. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. And I guess that's it for this episode.
Have a happy and safe holiday.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.